something slightly different
I'm
in
amenable.
mind. I think striking the policy altogether, I think one of the things about this policy having been in place is regardless of whether or not it could have stood, it did set a precedent. It did kind of make it known that the town of Great Barrington wasn't very amenable to having a lot more licenses. So I think striking a policy like this altogether takes away that little bit of a barrier, or at least a perceived barrier, where I think if we can create a new policy that has strong wording saying that we do really assess it based on need, may make an applicant think twice about whether the town would need what they are trying to sell us.
If I withdraw it, do you want to give it a shot? Do you have language?
I think I do.
If it's okay,
You
can I
can withdraw
the motion?
withdraw the second?
I'll withdraw the second.
Okay. I would like to make a motion to amend the current select board liquor store or package store liquor license policy to, what is it? What did I have? I'm sorry, to grant applications on a need basis. On an assessed need basis.
Do you have a second?
Maybe that's not right.
I'm just worried about what assessment, assessment process.
I mean, is the assessment process no different than how we assess any other license? I mean, that's how we assess other
At
licenses, correct?
this point, town council said that's how we should be judging these
Right,
licenses
so-
on need and public good.
Okay.
So then maybe on need and public good, an assessment
That
on
was
need
his-
and public
It's
good.
the assessment, I guess, that it looks like we have to go out and survey, or, so if you take that word out, I think we're
On
good
need,
based on,
based on need and
Yeah.
public good.
yeah, but you might have to say it again, because I don't know that happens.
Yeah.
I would like to make a motion to amend the current select board liquor license policy to grant license applications on a need and benefit basis, is that?
No, what would you say, need and, everybody remember?
The public good.
Need and public good, I'm sorry.
I wrote it down, it's okay. Do you have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Dan?
So, if that gets voted in right now, we have two applicants that are gonna follow, that do not need to follow the policy we just adopted. Because they were fortunate enough to get on the application for it.
Right.
So,
Well, but just let me correct that. According to legal counsel, we should be looking at these applications based on need and public good, so it doesn't matter what our policy says. And that because the policy wouldn't stand up in court.
yeah. So, I guess my question is, are you talking about some other assessment other than what we were supposed to be doing anyway?
I don't think so, but that's certainly something we can, as a board, discuss, if that's what we feel would be a better fit to that. I know for communities that are trying to go above and beyond their number, that's how, that they would assess it in order to go to the state to ask for additional licenses. But we, according to our lawyer and the state, have these licenses.
Who seconded the motion?
I second.
Other discussion?
I mean, it seems like a straightforward, do we go with this policy or not? I don't understand the motion particularly. I don't see what it has.
It's really making the policy fit what our lawyer says is legal, which is that we have to do that anyway. Which actually gives us more protection if we turn one down, because an appeal would say you've got this illegal policy.
But one has been turned down by the state. The state denied.
The ABCC, not the court.
You're right.
ABCC.
Okay, that's fine.
It's the-
So I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Aye.
But I have,
I don't, I don't think it matters at all.
It does.
No,
I don't know, but
Do you have one you'd like to?
I do, I would just like to, make a motion to disregard the policy of the previous board.
Do I have a second?
I'll let you. I want to make sure we have enough votes.
Sorry.
I want to make sure we have enough votes.
I need a second before we have discussion, so.
I'll second it for discussion.
Is that, it's too blunt, is that?
No, I mean, I think ultimately whatever action we make, whether it was the amendment that I made or the amendment to get rid of it, we're ultimately getting rid of the policy that was
Right.
in place. I think the only thing that I feel hopeful in creating some other sort of policy, which we could later down the road, we don't have to do it today, but with some sort of, something that would, asking town council, how do we construct a policy that that shows that the town is very strict about filling these other
Right.
vacant licenses, that we're not just giving out these 4 licenses. Maybe that isn't something we decide today, maybe that is a question for town council. But I just think that it would behoove Great Barrington and be a smart thing for the board to have some sort of policy in place that shows that we aren't just,
Right.
if that's the case, then we're gonna need to continue these 2 applications.
this evening,
Yes.
yes. I think no matter what, we have to continue those 2
No,
applications.
please postpone.
Oh, I see, if we don't make another,
Dave already applied, so what's your rationale, Dan, just so I
Well, my
understand?
point is then it's not fair to everybody else that came after that. We set a policy, you know what I mean? It's not, it's not fair at all.
I don't think I follow.
Well, cause now you're saying everybody that was unfortunate enough to get their application in after tonight has to follow a new set of rules.
But I think that's,
But the rules are no different, we're not,
But you're talking about creating some sort of hard, concrete evidence or policy or some sort of numbers to follow.
well, if that's the case, then I will fully vote in favor of this, and then we just have no policy at all, and we may see a ton of a deluge of licenses.
What we could do, entirely separate from this, is ask for guidance from the town council as to what criteria we can use, and we could then form a criteria, whether it's a policy or not, what we're looking at, what we're trying to avoid, what's legal to avoid.
and no matter how I feel about this, it was clear from talking to town council that our policy is considered an arbitrary roadblock that would not stand up. So, I think that's important to understand. So I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye, so it passes.
4 to 1.
3 to 2. No.
I did.
Steve and Dan.
Aye.
Okay, let's move on because we have a long meeting ahead of us, so let's,